Right, here we go. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
And we're just going to share some tunes that we were listening to last night and talk about the records.
It ended up being an all vinyl session.
It was.
And all no 7-inches and no CDs.
No, but a few 12 inches.
Yes, 12
right, well, we started off with this album, which is Hank Crawford, who's a sax player. This is on the Kudu record label. And a great sort of example of the funkier side of what came out of the CTI record stable. And we listened to a wonderful tune that featured Bernard Purdie on the drums that was called Sugar Free, I think it was. Yeah, very funky. A great guitar playing from Eric Gale on here.
Yeah, very nice. Told the story of how Grover Washington became Grover Washington.
Oh, well. You should say it, John.
No, it's too long to tell.
No, say it, tell it.
Basically, Hank Crawford was meant to have a recording session for Kudu for Creed Taylor, and he actually got arrested and ended up going to prison. And so the whole band were assembled in the studio, and Creed Taylor turned around to Grover Washington and said, "Okay, you do it instead." So that's how we got Grover Washington as a solo artist. He probably wouldn't have done that. Probably wouldn't
as
have
a funk soul artist.
Funk soul artist, yeah.
Funk soul jazz artist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that whole thing started by accident, which some of the best things do.
Indeed.
Then went for Phyllis Heyman from her first album on Buddha Records, and I always loved Phyllis Heyman. In fact, I got this for equivalent of 10 pence a couple of weeks ago, and it turns out to be a test pressing as well, which is, and as far as I can tell, has never been played, which is quite a nice thing to get. Anyway, so first Phyllis Heyman album. Her first couple of albums are the best, I think, and she started getting a little bit compromised by 80s production styles, so it didn't really suit her after then, and played her version of Loving You, Losing You, of course, the great Tom Bell song off there.
Great sound, huge orchestral vibes. This is an album that I've picked up recently, primarily for the amazing cover. This is Artha Franklin, by the way.
Maybe a hairdo on the cover.
No, it wasn't for the cover, I can tell you that. It was for her cover of What a Fool Believes. Wonderful arrangement and a fantastic song, and the icing on the cake being Aretha's voice all over it.
Yeah, that's great.
Including a little cameo from Hamish Stewart on backing vocals.
In fact, when you get into the late 70s and early 80s, Aretha, they're not all great albums, but some great material on some of these records, so it's always worth poking around. Temptations in their post Norman Whitfield period, and this is the album where they use on a couple of tracks, they basically use Funkadelic, who had parted company with George Clinton around that time, and they played the classic track Shaky Ground. Somebody else covered Shaky Ground, and I can't remember who it is, but I'm sure somebody who's watching this video will remember who it is. So with an unusual sound for the Temptations, really doesn't sound like them at all, actually.
No, very, very, very P-funky. I think possibly my favourite Roy Ayers album, called Hes Coming. This is from Roy Ayers' Ubiquity, featuring the double drum lineup of Billy Cobham and, who was the other guy? David Lee Jr. And we listened to the very funky tune called Fireweaver, with amazing vibes sound, actually, from Roy on this. I just think this is a really kind of cutting edge breakthrough album. No one else was quite sounding like this. And obviously this also has We Live in Brooklyn Baby, Sweet Tears, and He's a Superstar on it.
Probably some of the best songs, actually.
Some of his best tunes.
Very slightly odd recording. The vibes sound fantastic, but I think, presuming what's David Lee, you can hardly hear him.
Well, they've hard panned both the two drummers, one side each.
First Grand Central Station album.
Sounded absolutely sensational.
Which sounds really, really good. Been on a Sly kick for the last few months, so also that's now extended to Larry Graham as well. And I played the amazing track I Believe in You, which has got really interesting kind of instrumentation on some of his albums, I think, using kind of harpsichords and interesting kind of stuff in a funk setting. With Butch on organ as well. I
was really struck by the full audio range of sound, like really low end bass. I mean, at that time it was unusual to hear.
Yeah, but it was the early 70s, I think, wasn't it?
About 72, isn't it?
74.
So, 74.
It almost sounds like that kind of sound that Stanley Clarke gets on Silly Putty.
This is an album that I picked up at a record shop in Bath for, I think, either £1 or £2. This is the Crusaders, Rhapsody in Blues. I would say not one of their finest albums, and this was the lineup where it was just Wilkenfelder, Styx Hooper and Joe Sample. But the full-length version of Soul Shadows, which is the
really good
tune that Bill Withers sings on, absolutely sensational. And I was only really familiar with the Bill Withers Greatest Hits version, which I now understand is an edit. But there's a great, Abe Laboriel, who features a few times in this episode. It does a wonderful understated solo, and his bass playing throughout is sensational. Yeah.
This is a record I picked up 50 years ago in a record shop that doubles as a greengrocer's in North West London. But there's now a little cult around, actually. Anyway, I've told that story before on my show. But anyway, this is the more classic period, earlier Crusaders with, on this album, I think it's got Max Bennett on bass, and played the amazing version of this with a version of Eleanor Rigby, Beatles song, which is great stuff, I think, actually. Really interesting, great sounding live album. This as well. It's got a real atmosphere about it as well. The audience going nuts behind them as well.
I kind of actually bizarrely was thinking of the Grateful Dead during this.
Yeah.
Because they were just jamming.
Yeah, they were jamming. Yeah, absolutely. Grateful Dead came up in our conversation quite a lot.
They did. This has just been reissued and was quite a pricey album to buy in its original incarnation because it had never been released on vinyl. Apart from when it originally came out. This is the Benny Morpin album. So Benny Morpin, sax player, who actually featured on the Freddie Hubbard album I shared at the last session. Obviously very famous for playing with Herbie Hancock, and surrounds himself with many of the Headhunter associates like Paul Jackson on the bass and Blackbird McKnight on guitar, and Pat Gleason, who was on the Mwandishi period stuff, who actually I think is quite influential on the production sound of this. And what do we listen to? We listen to You Know the Deal. Great sort of abstract fusion album. Almost kind of brings together Mwandishi and Headhunters in one.
Yeah,
really good. Highly recommended.
Similar kind of sound to some of those kind of slightly later Eddie Henderson records as well, which
yes,
the two sounds as well.
And Patrice Rushen on keyboards, of course.
Sadly, of course, Benny Morpin lost everything in the Palisades fire in Los Angeles, which is awful for somebody his kind of age and legend, really, as well. This is for Ed Topo, really, who listens to our radio shows, and also this is an amazing, one of the maddest synth solos ever recorded. Basically, this is George Duke with the 12-inch version of Reach Out, which is a nice track on the album, the Guardians album, but it's fairly innocuous actually. But when it's extended to the 12-inch, it's absolutely got the most insane synth solo on it as well, and also some pretty mad bass playing as well on there from Lewis Johnson as well.
Yeah, he just he gets the expression that a really good lead guitar player can get out of a guitar. He gets that out of a synth.
But in fact, that's when he had a whammy bar on his keyboard as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's also a real earworm. This is sticking in my head for weeks.
Another 12-inch. This is Bits and Pieces. Now this is basically the Compass Point All-Stars. So people like Sly, Robbie, and Tyrone Downey, who was the keyboard player with Bob Marley and the Wailers. I suspect Wally Badaroo's on here. And this is a very, very funky, deep funk version of Yarborough People's Don't Stop the Music. The band are called Bits and Pieces, and on the B-side you've got pure Sly and Robbie, but not expensive to pick this up, and it's a wonderful 12-inch.
Definitely. I hadn't played Kendrick Lamar's Pimp Butterfly for a very long time, all the way through it. I played the odd track here and there. It just sounded incredible, actually, I have to say. It was such a great sounding. For me, I think it's still his best record. I know it's not the one he won all the prizes and awards for, but I just love it, actually. And played King Kunta off that with some fantastic bass playing on there from Thundercat. And also kind of weirdly seemed to tie in a little bit with the Sly and Robbie sound. Yeah.
I was very struck by the low end sound, which led me to go. This was the sort of low end kind of
nuclear version.
The nuclear version. This is the Ruffage Crew, which is basically a Goldie vehicle, and this is a double album that's just come out. Which, I mean, if you think Goldie's first album came out probably 1995, 96. We're a lot further down the track. I wouldn't say this equates to the equivalent development of musicality since then, but the sound is incredible. And we listened to the track called Goldie Cuss, which I think that was Cleveland Watkins on vocals.
Was it?
Yeah. But the bass on this was just enormous, and I've got these speakers that can absolutely handle it. But it was like a massage. Fantastic.
Yeah, like a warm bath.
Yeah. More like a warm bubble bath, I think, yeah.
And this had quite a big low end as well. I didn't remember having such a big... This is always... I've shown this like at least a couple of sessions before, actually, but this is my favourite Tortoise album. I just got it... I mean, I played it earlier in the week just thinking about... because they got a new album coming out on the National Anthem as well. Also touring in the UK. And played the track Jetty off here as well, which I think was the first thing that Jeff Parker, the guitarist, wrote for TNT. It just sounds kind of timeless music.
Absolutely.
Really. And they were the kind of daddy of a lot of music that's around at the moment, I think, really Tortoise.
And we're going to get tickets to go and see them at the Barbican. So any UK viewers, let us know. We'll see you there.
Yeah. Not that we can appear on stage or anything. No.
Well, I don't know, Jeremy. You never know.
You never know.
The Fifth Dimension, who are a band that really meant absolutely nothing to me up until I saw Summer of Soul, and was completely blown away. For me, they're almost like the best thing on it. I bought this album actually for a track called Ashes to Ashes, but it turns out that I love the track The River Witch, which features fantastic vocal performance from Billy Davis Jr. and just great sort of lush production, and again albums that kind of cost about £2 or £3. So really you can't go wrong. I love this picture of what they used to look like in 1965 on the bottom, and then what they were looking like in 1972.
And some great kind of playing from the Wrecking Crew, of course.
Absolutely.
I don't know how we connected that to Van Morrison exactly. I don't know. Anyway, but I don't think possibly never shown Van Morrison in this session.
I'm sure you have,
must have done. I've slightly got over him being a complete arsehole, really, and actually started listening to his music again, really. And he was great, actually. And I saw him around the same time when he did the Caledonia Soul Review, which toured the UK. Absolutely amazing. And this is one of his great albums, I think. I mean, the album, most of his albums up to Into the Mystic are absolutely fantastic, really. Anyway, Van the Man, as he was known. St. Dominic's Cleveland played the title track off here.
This was another recent purchase from a shop called Resolution Records in Bath, and again it was a couple of pounds, and I have to say it's not the greatest album, but I love the track Isn't It About Time, which is certainly worth a couple of pounds. And this was, I think, very much came out at the same time as the first Manassas album. Has a similar sound, but just the songs aren't as good.
I think they all hated each other by the time.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they all kind of fell out.
Right,
I think,
but well. Yeah, that track is heavy. I think it was Joe Walsh on slide guitar. It was Joe Walsh on slide guitar. Great stuff.
A lot of bands around that time had specialised in just hating each other. So particularly some of the kind of West Coast soft rock bands, they all basically loathe each other and trying to kill each other while making this very soft music. Neil Young, something else I had pulled out, I hadn't played for a while, and really one of my favourite tracks ever, Cortez the Killer, off Zuma. Nothing else to say about it, really. It's a great story about the fact when they started recording this, they didn't quite like the sound they were getting in the studio, so they knocked the wall down in the studio and actually extended it to make it larger as well. Anyway, classic record.
Sort of Neil's guitar sounds just on the point of exploding the whole time. It's kind of, it's not exactly a feedback sound, it's just a sort of just about containing it somehow.
Well, I remember somebody took the back off his guitar, his Big Black, as it was called, I think, Gibson guitar, and they looked at the wiring and said, "This doesn't make any sense. You shouldn't be able to get sound out of this. Either that, or it's literally about to blow up." Anyway, it's always been one of my favourite records. It still sounds amazing, actually, my original copy.
And Neil's coming to Glastonbury.
Yeah. Possibly not getting back into the States afterwards.
Yeah. This is an album that I didn't have on CD, and it has recently been reissued in Japan. Not cheap, but beautiful sound and wonderful playing. And my daughter was just reminding me of the track Strasbourg Saint-Denis. We did a joint listening party recently, DJing back to back, and she played this, and I just discovered that it had been just very recently issued on vinyl, and a wonderful album from the Roy Hargrove Quintet. Really state-of-the-art jazz from
very big sound
2008.
Record,
yeah.
So should pay our respects to Al Foster, the drummer. Of course, probably best known for his extended period with Miles Davis, but this record, when it came out, this was kind of much later period Blue Note, and it has been reissued the last couple of years. So it is very influential on. It's one of those things that get played a lot in kind of music colleges and all that kind of stuff. And it's a trio with Joe Henderson on saxophone, Ron Carter on bass, and Al Foster on drums. And I played the track, just played Loose Change, which is Ron Carter, which is basically just all about Ron Carter and Al Foster, actually, on there as well. So, yeah, I mean, kind of not one of the greatest ever drummers, but I think wonderful kind of feel. And everyone always says what an amazing presence he had in bands as well, Al Foster. So much missed, I think. There's another album I couldn't find him. I kind of misfiled it somewhere or other with Joe Henderson, with Charlie Hayden and Al Foster, which is, even, if anything, even better than this one as well. Came out around the same time. But anyway, much R.I.P. Al Foster.
We kind of got back into a bit of a Crusaders groove.
Yeah.
This album came out 2 or 3 years ago, reissued on Blue Note. We were saying actually we'd like to have more of these kind of albums coming out on Blue Note. This is Bobby Hutcherson and San Francisco, also featuring Harold Land on sax, but very much featuring Joe Sample on piano and electric piano. And we listened to just an amazing, warm, beautiful groove called Going Down South, which is the first track on side one.
I think all the albums with either Harold Land or Bobby Hutcherson wearing a woody hat should be reissued.
Yes, definitely.
We need more of those, actually. This is a record I've shown before, but I can't stop playing it, basically. It's one of the things that's been in my playing stack continuously for almost like 3 or 4 months now. And this is IO, 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 with a band that was put together by accident, another accident, actually, with Sam Wilkes on bass, Chris Fishman on Moog, Chris Fishman, who played with the Side Eye, Pat Metheny project, Quaid Rywood on drums, Dylan Day on guitar, and Tom Gill on guitar. And it's just got an amazing kind of sound, really.
I think you should share what they look like, John.
Yeah, quite a almost was like mug shot.
It does. Wanted.
And in fact, there's a video of all the tracks that Sam used, but none really look like this at all, which is great. And I played the track Rain and Snow, which Grateful Dead fans will know, was also reinterpreted by them as Cold Rain and Snow. It's one of the oldest English folk songs as well. Anyway, it's just great album. Unfortunately, it's incredibly expensive. It's been reissued, but it's costing about £50. So.
This next album I got because I have become obsessed with the track Mare Mansa, and I thought this was another version of it, which it is, but it doesn't seem to bear any resemblance to the version that I was knowing. But actually, it turns out I've discovered a great new Brazilian artist to me. I mean, he's not new, I imagine.
New to me.
Yeah. Martino Davilla. And he really has roots in the proper samba school. And I've got a couple of his albums now. Again, they're really cheap, but they just have this amazing vibe to them. And then suddenly, I mean, he's got a wonderful voice, and then suddenly this kind of chorus will appear. And it's just great music. And we listen to the track, Salve a Multada Brasileira. And it's great. I really recommend this guy.
Very good. So staying in the south, the wonderful Matsuni music. I've just put another compilation out. I think I showed the Black Soul one at the last session we had. This is a compilation of 78 basically acetate type recordings, actually, from way back, been compiled into, and it's kind of what it says, actually. It's Zulu blues, actually. It's South African artists who sound more like, almost more like Blind Willie McTell than they do South African music. And just good, great rhythms, wonderful tunes, and all they've been very lovingly kind of remastered into they're sounding great actually. The sonics are really good on this as well.
Amazing.
Just amazing songs, amazing tunes, real kind of sing-along stuff almost as well, and some very interesting characters, including the Muscle Man, who's the Superman on the front of the cover as well. But yeah, so Cowboys, Troubadours and Jilted Lovers from South Africa.
Nice. Last time we had a session, John bought this for me for my birthday, but I hadn't obviously played it, so didn't share it at the session. Guigui Morab. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
Mbanga. I mean, God, I can't say any of these things. And the track we listened to was Nusum Kaya. But Guigui plays the alto sax. There's also Dudu Bukwana, who I'm familiar with, and Chris McGregor, Ronnie Beer on the tenor sax, Coleridge Good on the bass, Laurie Allen on the drums. And great album. I just love that sound. Again, music that just makes you feel really good.
Yeah. And they're quite short songs as well, which is very nice as well. So, I mean, they're definitely, again, some more earworms on that. Bill Frisell has been touring a band in the States playing music from this record, which incredibly influential record. Someone described it as the more recent generation's equivalent of Kind of Blue, almost, really, in that it was one of the first record. I mean, Bill recorded a record in Nashville, but this is the one that brought together kind of jazz improvisation and country music and all kinds of things, and it just still sounds fantastic. I'd love to hear this music live. So I heard some of it live, but not with a similar band. And also, this is a good opportunity to wish Jim Kelton a happy birthday, because I think it was his birthday as well. So this was a band with Wayne Horvitz on keyboards, Greg Leese mostly on pedal steel guitar, Victor Krause, who's Alison Krause's brother, on bass, and Jim Kelton on drums. So just wonderful record. My top 10 record for me.
This would be a top 10 reggae record for me.
Yeah.
This is the original Nice Time Late Night Blues rhythm from Don McCarlos, a reggae 12-inch from, I reckon, probably about 1980 or 81, just with the most minimal but simple bass line and groove, and the most incredible syndrome sound that appears every now and again. And there are more than one version of this tune. I've got a DJ version from Ranking Dread as well, but wonderful track, heavy, very heavy.
And I've been thinking, trying to remember another track with that same, uses the same rhythm. I still can't think of it. Then from the Waning Souls on Green Sleeves Records, which was a UK-based reggae label. And a lot of stuff's being issued from Green Sleeves, and played the track Buzna. And there's a great dub version of that, which I think has just come out as a 12-inch. Waning Souls was one of many, I mean, there were so many wonderful harmony groups at that time, just fantastic, really. And this was just on the edge of moving into, right on the edge just before we moved into the more digital area of reggae, actually. So this has got the Roots Radix on it. Good stuff.
Well, again, not quite sure, but it was getting quite late by this stage, and I needed to put in a final track. And this was another of the recent pickups for a couple of pounds from Resolution Records in Bath. This is the James Taylor album, which is simply entitled JT, and kind of brought the band back together again, produced by Peter Asher, and you've got Leland Sklar on the bass, and Russ Kunkel on the drums, and Danny Korchmar on the guitar, and there's some beautiful tunes on here, and I just love James Taylor's voice. Well, I don't love this cover, but
slightly weirdly, doesn't often happen, but because I only bring one box of records down, and I had that same record in my box as well. Then first, I think, for one of our sessions, had Bill Callahan, and the track off his amazing album Apocalypse, which has always been one of my favourite of his, really, and One Fine Morning, which is kind of almost such a weird, I mean, his music's often quite odd. It almost has it's almost completely static somehow. It almost kind of stands still in front of you. And even though it kind of obviously time passes by, you just feel, and kind of very hard to describe how great Bill Callahan sounds. But if you like him, you know what I mean. So anyway, that was our last track.
It was.
Yeah.
And on that note, Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
And if you want to say anything in the comments, we'd always love to hear from you.
Definitely.
And if you want to hear more of the kind of music John and I share, we both have radio shows with links underneath.
Absolutely. Yeah, take care of yourselves.
Absolutely.